Alright guys, so in this video I wanted to look back on the top 10 overall draft picks from the 2012 NFL draft and see where they are now and what happened to their NFL career. And you can see the yellow signifies that the player at least made one Pro Bowl. So 6 out of 10 of these guys did at least make one Pro Bowl. And I'm just going to kind of reminisce on each of the top 10 picks of the 2012 NFL draft. So the number 1 overall pick, what I like to call the God prospect, probably the most highly hyped up prospect, can't miss, superstar ever. I mean, people were trying to compare Trevor Lawrence to him. I don't think it's even close. Andrew Luck at Stanford was just the superstar prospect that everyone knew was going to go number 1 overall. It wasn't even close. Indianapolis tanks to get him. They went 2-14, and then you can see his overall stats. So we all know Andrew Luck retires early. The whole story with the Indianapolis Colts is really sad. They had no offensive line. They finally got an offensive line, but at that point it was too late and Andrew Luck was done. He had already gotten money. He just wanted to get out because he didn't want to deal with the head issues. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler, 2018 Comeback Player of the Year. You take a look, in 86 games he had an AV, which is short for approximate value of 80. And if you guys know what WAR is in MLB, that's basically what AV is. And if you have like 1 AV per 1 game, that's really elite. So even as a quarterback, because quarterbacks do accumulate more AV, 80 AV in 86 games is really good. 20 games over 500 for Andrew Luck, 53-33 his career record, 171 touchdowns. And they also have his fantasy points there. I got to be honest, do we really need to see his career fantasy points? Listen, I like fantasy football, but what's the context of that? But just taking a look at his career overall, he made 3 straight Pro Bowls, and in 2012, his first year starting, guys, remember how rare it is a quarterback starting all 16 games their rookie year on a team that had the number 1 overall pick the previous year to go 11-5. It's unheard of. It really is. He is an Iron Man for 3 straight seasons, starts 16 games, wins 11 games every year, makes the Pro Bowl all 3 years, and in the 3rd year has 40 passing touchdowns, leads the league. In 2015, he only starts 7 games, goes 5-2, and has 12 interceptions. 2016, 8-7, has a good year with 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and then 2018, his last year, he makes the Pro Bowl, goes 10-6, 39 passing touchdowns, and wins Comeback Player of the Year. But with Andrew Luck, we all know the sack rate. You can see at 129, his last season, that led the NFL. And by the time Indianapolis actually got a legitimate offensive line, it was already too late for Andrew Luck. He ends up retiring in a very unfortunate situation. The news breaks during a preseason game. By the way, that year, the expectation was Andrew Luck was going to be the Colts quarterback. Nobody expected him at age 29, even with the injuries, to retire. And it happens, the news breaks. Colts fans boo him off the field. Some people were angry at Colts fans. Other people, they said they have a right to do it because he's 29. They expect him to be the quarterback. He makes this shocking move right before the season, but he ends up retiring. And the update on him, in August of 2022, Stanford head coach David Shaw, who's not the head coach anymore, by the way, divulged that Luck was going to be returning to Stanford as a graduate student pursuing a master's degree in education. After his retirement, he continued to reside in Indianapolis with his family, but recently moved to the Bay Area in 2022. He is known to be very private, still uses a flip phone, and has no social media presence. He enjoys cycling. So that is the update on Andrew Luck. Very unfortunate story there. Next, you've got the number 2 overall pick of the Washington Redskins, Robert Griffin III, the dual threat quarterback from Baylor. Washington traded up, giving up significant draft capital to the then St. Louis Rams. And taking a look at his career, you can see 56 games played. He had a total AV of 38, a career record of 16-26, 43 passing touchdowns to 30 interceptions. He did make 1 Pro Bowl. He was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2012. And just looking at his career overall, it's so weird. It's very rare for a quarterback to make the Pro Bowl as a rookie and then never make it again. But if you know anything about RG3 and the situation with him playing the playoff game, limping, and then having that injury, it shouldn't surprise you. He was a sensational rookie. 20 passing touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 9-6 record, led Washington to the playoffs, and then in 2013, just not the same after the injury, 3-10, had 12 interceptions, just 16 touchdown passes. 2014, basically unstartable. He started 7 games, he went 2-5, ends up going to the Browns a year later after not starting any games or playing in 2015. The Browns were tanking that year. He went 1-4 in 5 starts with just 2 passing touchdowns. Then he went to Baltimore to be a backup for 3 straight years and started 2 total games in that 3-year span, throwing 1 total touchdown. Of course, with RG3, his running was electrifying. I actually had him on my fantasy team as a rookie when he was a rookie back in 2012. Averaging around 7 yards per carry, which led the league, and 7 total touchdowns. But after that, he just wasn't the same after his injury. So RG3, and you can see, just look at that. Look at his AV. An 18 AV in 15 starts your rookie year. Yeah, that's unheard of. And then after that, just completely falls off the table, mainly due to that injury he suffered during the playoffs as a rookie. RG3, I'm sure many people know, he now works with ESPN. He is a commentator. He does Big 12 football games, and he also does some things. I think he's like an analysis for NFL during the offseason. The number 3 overall pick was Trent Richardson of the Cleveland Browns, one of the all-time biggest busts in NFL history. In 46 total games in the NFL, he had an AV of 18. He had 2,000 rushing yards total, averaging a putrid 3.3 yards per carry and 17 total touchdowns. And if you look at his career, so rookie year with the Browns, 15 games. The red flags were there, but nobody took them seriously. So Trent Richardson, as a rookie with the Browns, the 3rd overall pick, he really didn't have any explosiveness. He averaged 3.5 yards per carry, which is a major red flag. He did have 11 touchdowns, and the one thing he did show was the ability to catch the ball. He had 51 catches. That enabled the Browns early in his 2nd year, after just 2 games and 105 total yards on 31 carries, the Browns were able to get a 1st-round pick for him in a trade with Indianapolis. He goes to the Colts and plays 14 total games with them, averaging 2.9 yards per carry. So 157 rushes for under 500 yards. That is horrifically bad. And then 2014, he ends up starting 12 games, averaging 3.3 yards per carry. And yeah, Trent Richardson, we know the meme with the Oakland Raiders, of course. You know, that was actually a preseason game. He never played a real regular season game with the Raiders. You can see his overall career with the Browns, Colts, Raiders, and also the Baltimore Ravens, appearing on their practice squad, I believe. He has since played with the Saskatchewan Roughriders and the Birmingham Iron, and now he resides in a Mexican football league. On February 11th, 2021, Richardson signed with a Mexican football team. The Mexican media referred to this move as the biggest signing in Mexican pro football history. So apparently now Trent Richardson plays with Mexico. And a little fun fact for everyone, you guys know that really famous Burger King commercial? You know, the whole BK, have it your way, you rule. Yeah, Trent Richardson did the voice for that. No, I'm just kidding. I just made that up. But yeah, apparently he's with Mexico now. So Trent Richardson, you can see with the Birmingham Iron, this is from Wikipedia, it just didn't get any better for him. He averaged under 3 yards per carry with the Iron, with an AFF league or whatever that is. Moving on to the fourth pick, it is Matt Kalil, who ended up playing in 82 games. He had an AV of 38, and he actually started all 82 games. And another really weird career where he makes the Pro Bowl as a rookie and doesn't do much after it. When it comes to offensive linemen, really the only thing you can look at is the overall AV. He had 9 AV his first year, which is decent. After that, very average, 7.77. He was injured in 2016. And then with Carolina, he did start all 16 games and had an AV of 7. So, you know, he was a consistent starter for at least half a decade within the NFL. But overall, he is not highly regarded as a number 4 overall pick. He did sign a massive contract. He signed a 5-year, $55 million contract with the Panthers in March of 2017. In 2018, he was placed on the injured reserve, and in 2019, he was released. So that was an absolute bust of a contract. And the last update in the NFL, the Houston Texans released him in September of 2019, and he has since retired. And then this was the most recent thing I saw from last year in 2022. Apparently, his wife is a swimsuit model, and she recently divorced him. That is the most recent update we have of him. Moving on to the 5th overall pick, it is Justin Blackmon. So Justin Blackmon in 20 games in his career, he had a total AV of 9, and he had almost 100 career receptions for almost 1,300 total yards with 6 touchdowns overall. You can see, you know, this was a career that kind of went off the rails really early on. His rookie year, he did play in all 16 games. He had around 800 yards, 5 touchdowns. Not a terrible rookie year. It's not the best for, you know, a 5th overall pick, but back the NFL, you got to remember back in 2012, it wasn't as big of a passing league. And then in 2013, he was just completely, you know, that's where he started getting suspended by the NFL. He missed all of 2014, and he has not been seen since. In 2013, for what it's worth, in 4 games, he did have 415 yards, so he averaged over 100 yards a game. And he did have a touchdown that year at Oklahoma State. He was just ridiculous. These are Big 12. You remember the Big 12 defenses when they were terrible? Yeah, Justin Blackmon had 20 touchdowns from Brandon Weeden his sophomore season. And then his junior year, he had 18 touchdowns. Back-to-back years, he won the nation's best receiver award. I mean, yeah, in 2 years, he had 38 total touchdowns. It's ridiculous. And he's had a lot of legal issues. Early in 2012, he was arrested for a DUI. In April of 2013, he receives a 4-game suspension. In July of that year, he underwent groin surgery. The Jaguars placed him on the PUP list. On November 1st, during the Jaguars' bye, he was suspended indefinitely again without pay for violating NFL's policy on program for substance of abuse. So, yeah, it's been tough. In December of 2015, he was arrested again for a DUI, and the most recent update we've had of him was in 2021, he did reunite for the first time in like 8 years, apparently, with Brandon Weeden. The number 6 overall pick was Morris Claiborne out of LSU. In 85 total games, he had an AV of 28 and 7 career interceptions with 1 touchdown, and he was a Super Bowl champion, but he was inactive for that game. That was in 2020, February of 2020, when Mahomes won his first ring, and he's been retired ever since being inactive in that game. Looking at his overall numbers with Dallas as a rookie, he started all 15 games. After that, really kind of sporadic. 10 games played, 7 starts, 4 games total, and then 11 games, 7 games, goes to the Jets, starts 15 games, 2 years, and then doesn't play much at all with Kansas City, but that is where he got his ring. And he was listed as the number 2 overall biggest bust in Dallas Cowboys history, according to an article. And the last we have seen of him was with Kansas City in 2019. Moving to the 7th overall pick, it was Mark Barron of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He appeared in 119 games, had an AV of 67 with 12 total sacks. He was not selected to any Pro Bowls, and he had kind of an interesting career. So with Tampa Bay, he starts both years. He ends up playing and getting traded to St. Louis. And with St. Louis, I mean, he had a crazy good year in 2015. He had 16 tackles for loss in 2015. I'm surprised he didn't make a Pro Bowl that year, and then plays with the Rams for 3 years before going to Pittsburgh and retiring. And you take a look, he had 3 really good years according to approximate value, 12, 14, 13. That is good. So Mark Barron, his career really didn't start off well, but he did end up becoming a decent starter in the league for, I would say, almost half a decade. The Denver Broncos ended up signing him in August of 2020. He was placed on the injured reserve in September with a hamstring injury, and he ended up getting waived by the Broncos in December of 2020. That is the last we've seen of Mark Barron. So I would say, as the 7th overall pick, definitely not a good return on investment for Tampa Bay, but he did kind of turn his career around and had a few good seasons with the Rams. Moving to the 8th overall pick, it was Ryan Tannehill, the former receiver turned quarterback at Texas A&M. He was drafted by the Miami Dolphins. He's made 1 Pro Bowl in his career. He won the 2019 Comeback Player of the Year, and he has been a consistent starter as an NFL quarterback for, I believe at this point, over a decade. He does have a winning record in his career at 78 and 65, and he has over 200 total passing touchdowns. So certainly not a bust. You look at his overall resume, it's not terrible. And he had the great year in really at 2 good years, 2019, 2020, back-to-back, 2021 and 2022. He's kind of tailed off there in Tennessee. But it does look like right now, even though he's on thin ice with the Titans, he is going to be their starting quarterback. So a guy who started basically a decade in the NFL, whether you can argue, is he a franchise quarterback? Well, he's probably not a franchise quarterback, but still, that kind of longevity is something to where, obviously as the 8th overall pick, you're not going to be a bust. And you can see he did have a crazy year where he led the NFL in passer rating at 117.5 and won Comeback Player of the Year. And the recent update on him, he is still with the Tennessee Titans. There has been speculation, but he is expected to be their quarterback. And I'm guessing he's on thin ice, but at least at the start of the year in 2023, he will probably still be starting. We'll have to see what happens with him and Malik Willis. The number 9th overall pick was Luke Kuechly out of Boston College, and just a ridiculous career for him. 118 games, 107 AV, 18 total interceptions, but 7-time Pro Bowl, 5-time All-Pro, Hall of Fame team, All-Decade in 2012, Defensive Player of the Year in 2013, Defensive Rookie of the Year in 2012. And you can see the overall, in 2018, 20 tackles for loss. He led the NFL in total tackles as a rookie and also as a 3-year player. And in his 8-year career, he made the Pro Bowl 7 times. And the only time he didn't make it as a rookie, he led the NFL in tackles. And he also won Defensive Rookie of the Year. So just a remarkable career, and he retires early. This is a guy, if it was like 20 or 30 years ago, he'd probably still be playing. But with the overall concussion issues, that's being kind of a bigger thing in the NFL. These guys are getting their money, and then they're getting out. You can see he was an absolute Iron Man in terms of his overall, snap counts, playing basically 97, 98% of the snaps every single year. And he will be undoubtedly a first ballot Hall of Famer, even with his short career. His resume is just ridiculous. His career highlights and awards. I'm not going to go through all of that, but after retiring, he considered becoming a broadcaster or coach before deciding to enter scouting. In June of 2020, he returned to the Panthers as a pro scout. He resigned from the scout position in the 2021 offseason. In August of 2021, he was seen at a Buffalo Bills practice assisting his former defensive coordinator, Sean McDermott. So looks like he's turned into a scout post-retirement. And then the 10th overall pick is going to be Stephon Gilmore, who has been an absolute shutdown cornerback. He is now with the Dallas Cowboys, still playing. In his career, he started 148 games with an AV of 83. He's a 5-time Pro Bowl, 2-time All-Pro. He won a Defensive Player of the Year in 2019, which is just insanely hard to do for cornerbacks. And you can take a look at his overall numbers. Yeah, his 2019 season, look at 2018 and 2019. Both seasons he had 20 pass defense. In 2019, he had an AV of 22. It's just ridiculous numbers. And you can see he kind of tailed off there. After leaving New England, he goes to Carolina. They gave him a kind of a token Pro Bowl, only starting 3 games and appearing in 8. And then with Indianapolis, he did appear in all 16 games, but had an AV of just 5. Now he goes to Dallas, and they are very happy. They ended up trading with Indianapolis. They traded a 5th-round pick to get Gilmore, who is now 32, and, is more kind of a cornerback too, a solid secondary corner. So guys, that's going to do it for this video on the top 10 overall picks in the 2012 NFL Draft. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.